The Galactic Council chamber was always busy. Different alien species worked at their stations, each doing their part to run the galaxy. The massive room stretched high above, filled with floating platforms and glowing screens. Jane Miller stood up from Earth's seat. She was tall and calm, wearing the simple blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. Around her, dozens of alien representatives continued their work. Most didn't even notice when she stood. She walked to the center speaking platform. Her footsteps echoed in the huge space. A few aliens looked up from their work, surprised to see a human approaching the main podium. Jane cleared her throat. The sound amplifiers carried her voice across the chamber. I request the Council's attention for an official statement from Earth. The background noise slowly died down. More aliens turned to look. It was unusual for humans to make formal statements. Earth was just a junior member. They usually stayed quiet during meetings. The Vorthan representative spoke first. Its crystal body flickered with different colors. The human may speak, though this interrupts our scheduled business. Jane nodded politely. She had prepared for this moment for weeks. Earth's leaders had finally decided enough was enough. Thank you. Distinguished members of the Galactic Council, Earth has been part of this organization for 50 years. During that time, we have provided resources, technology, and our people to support Council operations. A few aliens shifted in their seats. Some looked bored. Others whispered to their neighbors. Humans complaining wasn't new. They often asked for better treatment. Jane continued. We work in your factories. We maintain your ships. Our doctors treat patients from every member species. Our programmers keep your computers running. Yet despite these contributions, Earth remains classified as a junior member. The Zephyrian ambassador waved its tentacles dismissively. This is old news, human. Every species must prove itself before gaining full membership. 50 years isn't proof enough. Jane asked. Her voice stayed level, but her eyes showed her frustration. We still can't vote on laws that affect our planet. We can't propose new policies. We watch as senior members make decisions about our resources without our input. The Korvax unit's mechanical voice buzzed. Earth's population is small. Your technology is basic compared to senior races. These facts justify your current status. Jane pulled out a datapad. I have statistics here. Humans make up 30% of all maintenance crews in Council space. 40% of interspecies translators are human. 25% of your medical staff come from Earth. The Andromedan ambassador laughed. It sounded like wind chimes in a storm, and we appreciate these contributions. But cleaning ships and translating words do not equal the military might of the Vorthan fleet or the technological advancement of the Korvax collective. Jane put away the datapad. This was the important moment. The Council has made its position clear. Earth makes a different choice. We demand full membership rights within one standard galactic cycle. The chamber erupted in various sounds, clicks, whistles, and rumbles that meant laughter in different alien languages. The idea of Earth making demands was apparently very funny. Or what? Ambassador Zix of the Andromedans leaned forward. Its blue skin rippled with amusement. Will Earth declare war? Your entire fleet is smaller than my personal security force. Jane began collecting her papers. Other human staff members around the chamber did the same. They moved with practiced coordination, as if following a plan. No, Ambassador. If our demand is not met, humanity will withdraw from the Galactic Council completely. Every human will leave Council space. Every Earth ship will return home. Every human-run business will close. The laughter grew louder. Several species found this incredibly amusing. The little humans were threatening to take their toys and go home. Jane walked toward the exit. Behind her, every human in the chamber followed. Their footsteps created a steady rhythm on the metal floor. At the door, Jane turned back one last time. You have one cycle to decide. Choose wisely. Then the humans left. The mighty Galactic Council continued laughing. They had no idea what was about to happen. The evacuation started immediately. Colonel Jack Harris had been ready for this moment for months. He stood in the command center of Starbase Omega, the Council's largest military station. His officers worked quickly at their terminals, sending messages to every human on the base. All Earth personnel, report to departure base, Jack announced over the communication system. Bring only personal items. Leave all Council property at your stations. Around him, human staff members began shutting down their workstations. They moved with purpose, following the evacuation plan they had practiced in secret. No panic, no rush, just efficient movement toward the exit points. In the engine room, Maria Lopes finished her last maintenance check. She had kept these old reactors running for 15 years. The alien engineers never bothered to learn the little tricks that prevented overheating. She closed her toolbox and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" asked Grix, a four-armed Altarian engineer. "Your shift doesn't end for 6 hours." Maria handed him her access codes. "I'm leaving. Earth is withdrawing from the Council." Grix laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The humans are having another emotional moment. You'll be back tomorrow." Maria shrugged and walked out. Behind her, warning lights started blinking on panels she usually monitored. Grix ignored them. Those systems always had minor alerts. The humans worried too much about small problems. In the medical bay, Dr. Paul Adams packed his personal medical scanner. Around him, human nurses and technicians did the same. The Zephyrian head of medicine floated over, its tentacles waving anxiously. "What is happening? Why are all the humans leaving?" Paul explained the situation while he packed. The Zephyrian's color changed from green to yellow, a sign of confusion. "But you cannot all leave. Who will operate the bioscanners? Who will maintain the surgical equipment?" "I'm sure you'll figure it out," Paul said. He pointed to a thick manual on the desk. "The instructions are all there. In English, unfortunately. The universal translators have trouble with medical terms." Across the station, similar scenes played out. Human cooks left kitchens where they had learned to prepare food for dozens of different species. Human janitors abandoned the complex waste processing systems they had modified over the years. Human security guards turned in their weapons and badges. The alien command staff watched the exodus with amusement. Admiral Krotak sat in his office, reading reports as humans streamed past his window toward the docking bays. "Let them go," he told his aide. "We operated this station before the humans arrived. Their departure changes nothing." His aide, a young Vorthan officer, seemed less certain. "Admiral, the humans handle many secondary systems. Perhaps we should." "Secondary systems," Krotak interrupted. "Exactly. Nothing critical. The Council races built this station. We can maintain it without primitive Earth technology." In the communication center, Linda Scott finished transferring her files. She had created most of the translation protocols that allowed different species to communicate clearly. The programs were complex, full of cultural notes and exception rules that prevented diplomatic incidents. A Korvax unit approached her. "You are leaving your post during critical hours." "The Council has made its decision," Linda replied. "Earth has made ours." "Your translation programs, how do they function?" Linda pointed to her computer. "The source code is there. It's written in Python, Java, and C++. I'm sure someone can figure it out." The Korvax unit's lights blinked rapidly. It had no idea what those programming languages were. Like most Council races, they used their own systems. Humans were the only species that had bothered to learn multiple programming languages. By evening, the last shuttle prepared to leave. Jack Harris stood at the boarding ramp, checking his list. Every human on the station was accounted for. Behind him, the massive structure of Starbase Omega continued its operations. For now, he took one last look at the station he had called home for 8 years. Already he could see warning lights appearing in sections where humans had worked. Small problems that would grow bigger. "All aboard, Colonel," the pilot called. Jack climbed into the shuttle. As they departed, he wondered how long it would take before the Council realized their mistake. Not long, he suspected. Not long at all. President John Washington sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by his advisors. Large screens covered the walls, showing the progress of humanity's withdrawal from Council space. Red dots marked human populations leaving alien worlds. Green dots showed ships returning to Earth. "How many people are we talking about?" John asked. General Susan Brown checked her tablet. 3 million humans worked in Council space. Most are already in transit. The rest will be home within 2 weeks. Any resistance from the Council? None, Susan replied. They're still treating it as a joke. Several ambassadors have made public statements mocking our emotional decision. John turned to Ambassador Jane Miller, who had returned from the Council chambers. "What's your assessment?" Jane leaned forward. "They have no idea what's coming. The Council races assume their technology makes them superior. They never noticed how we connected their systems together." Defense Secretary Robert Chen pulled up new data. "Our intelligence shows something interesting. Humans filled gaps between alien technologies. Each race built systems that only worked with their own equipment. Humans created patches and workarounds to make everything compatible." "Give me an example," John said. "The Vorthan life support systems don't naturally connect to Korvax power grids. Human engineers built adapters and wrote software bridges. Without those patches, the systems can't communicate." Jane added more details. "It's not just technology. Humans became the universal translators. We learned multiple alien languages because the automatic translators kept failing. We understood cultural context that machines missed." "How long before they notice?" John asked. "My guess? 3 days for minor problems, a week for major failures, 2 weeks for complete breakdown," Robert answered. On the screen, more dots turned from red to green. The evacuation was proceeding smoothly. Transport ships arrived at Earth's orbital stations every hour, bringing home crews from across the galaxy. In Houston, Sarah Williams debriefed returning engineers. Their reports painted a clear picture. "I ran the water recycling system on Mining Station 5, one engineer explained. "The original alien system could only handle one type of waste. I modified it to process waste from 8 different species. Nobody else knows how those modifications work." Another engineer described the communication arrays. 12 different alien technologies trying to talk to each other. I wrote translation protocols for each combination. The documentation exists, but it's in English with Earth programming languages. Good luck to them. The stories repeated across every sector. Humans had become the connective tissue of galactic civilization. They learned everyone's languages, understood everyone's technology, and figured out how to make incompatible systems work together. Back in Washington, the president's team discussed the implications. "They'll come asking for help soon," Jane predicted. "When they do, we need to be ready with our demands." "Full membership?" John asked. "That's just the start. We want compensation for 50 years of undervalued service, recognition of our essential role, and guarantees this won't happen again." Susan brought up military concerns. "What if they try to force us back?" "They won't," Robert said confidently. "Our analysis shows their fleets can't coordinate without human communication officers. Different species use incompatible command structures. Humans were the only ones who could translate between them in real time." John stood and walked to the window. Outside, life continued normally. Most Earth citizens didn't realize how much their species contributed to galactic stability. "Send a message to all returning personnel," he ordered. "They should document everything they did in Council space, every system they maintained, every problem they solved, every translation they provided. We need a complete record." "Already in progress," Jane confirmed. "We're building a database of human contributions. When the Council comes begging, we'll show them exactly what they lost." The screens updated again. A notification appeared showing system failures on 3 Council stations. It was starting already. "Prepare our negotiation team," John said, "and make sure Earth's defenses are ready. Desperate aliens might do desperate things." His team dispersed to their tasks. The withdrawal continued. Earth prepared for the next phase. The galaxy was about to learn why humans mattered more than anyone had imagined. Admiral Krotak woke to the sound of alarms. His quarters were too hot, and the air smelled wrong. He reached for his communicator, but the device showed only static. The universal translator remained silent. He dressed quickly and headed for the command center. The corridors of Starbase Omega were chaos. Different species shouted in their native languages. Without human translators, nobody understood each other. Status report, Krotak demanded as he entered the bridge. His Zephyrian operations officer waved its tentacles frantically. The translator sputtered and produced only gibberish. After several attempts, Krotak understood fragments. Main power failing. Life support unstable. Waste systems backing up. Where are the engineers? The officer pointed to a display. Dozens of alien technicians crowded around control panels. They argued in multiple languages, each trying different solutions. Without humans to coordinate, they worked against each other. In the medical bay, chaos reigned. Dr. Threx, the Zephyrian chief medical officer, struggled with the bioscanners. The machine showed error messages in English. The translation program couldn't handle medical terminology. A Korvax patient needed surgery. The surgical equipment required specific settings for each species. The human nurses always knew the right combinations. Now, Threx had to guess. He entered wrong values. The equipment shut down with warning sounds. Get the manual, Threx ordered. An assistant brought thick books written by human staff. The medical terms made no sense through the translator. Words like hemorrhage and anastomosis came out as red leaking and connection thing. Down in engineering, the situation worsened. The main reactor used Vorthan technology. The backup systems were Korvax. The cooling system came from the Zephyrians. Humans had connected them all with custom-built interfaces. Chief Engineer Grix stared at the tangle of connections. Warning lights flashed everywhere. He tried to trace the power flows, but the human modifications made no sense. Every time he fixed one problem, two more appeared. Shut down Section 5, he ordered. Which Section 5? His assistant asked. The human numbering or the original Vorthan system? Grix realized he didn't know. Humans had reorganized everything for efficiency. They never thought to ask how it worked. In the council chambers, emergency meetings turned into shouting matches. Without human diplomats smoothing over cultural differences, minor disagreements exploded. The Korvax representative made a logical suggestion about resource allocation. The Zephyrians interpreted it as an insult to their breeding pools. The Vorthans thought both were plotting against them. Order. Order. President Varthus banged his ceremonial staff. Nobody listened. The translator malfunctioned, turning his calls for order into what sounded like threats in several languages. Trade ships floated in space, unable to dock. Human traffic controllers had managed the complex dance of different thruster systems and docking protocols. Now ships bumped into each other. A Vorthan freighter scratched a Zephyrian passenger liner. Both captains screamed threats nobody could understand. On Colony World Beta 7, the food crisis began. Human agricultural specialists had modified crops to grow in alien soil. They bred plants that multiple species could eat safely. Without their expertise, food supplies dwindled. The colony administrator, a tall Andromedan named Zix, reviewed the empty warehouses. Contact the human farmers. Offer them double payment to return. Sir, Earth has blocked all council communications, his aide reported. They won't accept our calls. Back on Starbase Omega, Admiral Krotak faced a terrible choice. The station's orbit was decaying. The navigation computers needed adjustment. The human operators always handled the complex calculations that balanced multiple gravitational fields. Can anyone compute the course corrections? Silence answered him. Each species knew their own navigation methods. Only humans had learned them all and created unified solutions. By the end of the week, 3 mining stations reported complete life support failure. 2 colonies began evacuation procedures. The main trade route between Vorthan and Korvax space closed due to navigation hazards. The Galactic Council had discovered what humans really did. They connected the incompatible. They translated the untranslatable. They fixed the unfixable. And now they were gone. The crisis was only beginning. Captain Amy Rodriguez sat on the bridge of her cargo ship, the Lucky Strike. She watched the emergency beacons flashing across her navigation screen. Dozens of distress calls came from Council space, colonies without food, stations losing life support, ships stranded without fuel. Her communication officer, Tony Baker, turned from his console. "Captain, we're receiving another desperate message. The Andromedan colony on Kepler 5 needs medical supplies. Their storage systems failed. All their frozen vaccines are spoiled." Amy checked her cargo hold. They had vaccines, lots of them. But Earth's government had given clear orders. No trade with Council space until humanity got full membership. Send the standard reply. Earth vessels no longer service Council routes, Amy said. The words felt harsh, but orders were orders. "Captain," Tony hesitated. "They say children are dying." Amy closed her eyes. This part hurt the most. Innocent beings suffered because their leaders were too proud to treat humans as equals. "I know, Tony, but if we give in now, nothing changes." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human cargo pilots turned away desperate requests. Human repair crews ignored distress calls. Human medical ships stayed in Earth space while alien colonies begged for help. The economic collapse started with the Rigel trading hub. This massive station processed 60% of all galactic commerce. Human logistics experts had designed its operation systems. They knew which docks handled which ships, which warehouses stored what goods, how to route packages between incompatible transport networks. Without them, the hub ground to a halt. Ships arrived but couldn't unload. Cargo piled up in the wrong places. Perishable goods rotted in hot storage meant for electronics. Electronic components froze in refrigerated units meant for food. The Vorthan trade minister watched his economy crumble on real-time displays. "Get me someone who understands these systems." "The only experts were human, Minister," his aide replied. "They designed the entire network. We have their documentation. But what? It references something called Excel spreadsheets and MySQL databases. Our systems can't read these formats." The mining operations failed next. Human engineers had modified alien drilling equipment to work in various environments. They programmed the safety protocols that prevented disasters. They maintained the jury-rigged life support in hostile atmospheres. On asteroid base Gamma 12, the main drill shut down during operations. The Korvax supervisor tried to restart it, but the human-modified safety system locked everything. The error message read, "Pressure variance detected. Check Jim's notes in Locker 47 before proceeding." Nobody knew who Jim was. Locker 47 contained handwritten notebooks in English. The diagrams made sense, but the explanatory notes were full of Earth slang and technical shorthand that no translator could decode. The agricultural crisis deepened. Human botanists had spent decades adapting Earth crops to alien worlds. They created hybrid plants that could feed multiple species safely. They managed the complex soil chemistry needed for off-world farming. Without their expertise, crops failed. The gene-modified wheat on Proxima Colony developed a fungus. The protein farms on Beta Station produced toxins instead of nutrients. Nobody understood the intricate balance humans had maintained. Food prices skyrocketed. Hungry populations demanded action. Riot suppression became impossible when security forces couldn't coordinate. Human peacekeepers had always served as neutral mediators. Now, each species' security forces operated independently, often making situations worse. The final blow came from the financial sector. Human accountants had created the only banking system that worked with multiple alien currencies. They understood exchange rates between energy credits, time shares, matter units, and consciousness fragments. When the human-run Galactic Reserve Bank closed, currency markets crashed. Nobody could agree on values. Trade ground to a complete halt. Even species that had food couldn't buy fuel. Those with fuel couldn't purchase repairs. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the 10th day straight. The chamber stank. The waste processing systems had failed completely. Half the translation systems showed error messages. The temperature fluctuated wildly as climate control systems fought each other. President Varthus looked at the latest reports. 17 colonies evacuated. 32 stations on emergency power. 5 major trade routes closed. 3 species near economic collapse. The mighty Galactic Council was dying. And they finally understood why. Ambassador Zix had never felt fear like this before. The proud Andromedan stood in the emergency meeting room, his blue skin pale with stress. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy looked defeated. The situation is beyond critical, Zix reported. 40% of our stations are on emergency power. Food supplies will last perhaps 2 more weeks. The banking system has completely collapsed. President Varthus slumped in his chair. The mighty leader of the Galactic Council looked old and tired. How did we become so dependent on one species? The Korvax Analyst Unit projected holographic data. Analysis complete. Humans occupied 0.5% of leadership positions, but handled 67% of essential maintenance tasks. They wrote 89% of interspecies communication protocols. They managed 78% of logistics operations. We measured power by military strength, the Vorthan admiral admitted. We counted technological advancement. We ignored practical skills. Zix pulled up more reports. Each one painted a darker picture. Medical crisis on 12 worlds. Starvation on 8 colonies. Complete system failure on 5 major stations. And it's accelerating. Send a delegation to Earth immediately, Varthus ordered. Full diplomatic convoy. Our best negotiators. Sir, his aide interrupted. Our best negotiators were human. The remaining staff can barely communicate without fighting. The room fell silent. The truth was undeniable. Humans hadn't just worked for the Council. They had been the glue holding everything together. 3 days later, a ragged diplomatic convoy approached Earth. Ambassador Zix led the mission. The journey had been a nightmare. Without human navigators, they'd gotten lost twice. The ship's life support had partially failed. Half the delegation was sick from eating improperly prepared food. The convoy waited in Earth orbit for 6 hours. No response came to their hails. Finally, a single message arrived. Dock at Platform 7. Prepare for security screening. Zix had never undergone security screening before. Council members were usually exempt. Now, Earth guards scanned him like any visitor. They were polite but firm. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Jane Miller met them in the conference room. She wore the same simple blue uniform. Behind her stood President Washington and General Brown. The humans looked calm and organized. Zix began his prepared speech. The Galactic Council recognizes the importance of human contributions. We are prepared to offer improved junior membership terms. Stop, Jane interrupted. Ambassador, your colonies are starving. Your stations are failing. Your economy has collapsed. Let's skip the diplomatic dance. Zix's prepared words died. He had never been interrupted before. What do you want? President Washington leaned forward. Full membership, equal voting rights, compensation for 50 years of undervalued service, formal recognition as an essential species, and guaranteed representation in all council departments. That's unprecedented. No species has gained full membership in less than 200 years. No species has proven their worth so dramatically, Jane replied. You thought we were janitors and translators. We were the engineers keeping your civilization running. General Brown added military perspective. Your fleets can't coordinate without our communication officers. Your supply lines don't function without our logistics teams. Your bases are failing without our maintenance crews. Zix looked at his fellow delegates. The Vorthan admiral nodded reluctantly. The Korvax unit flashed agreement. Even the proud Zephyrian representative couldn't argue. I need to contact the full council, Zix said. Of course, Jane smiled. But remember, every day you delay, more systems fail, more colonies suffer, more of your civilization crumbles. The meeting ended. Zix returned to his ship to send the message. The communication system had failed again. He had to use an emergency beacon, technology so primitive it made him ashamed. Back on Earth, President Washington met with his advisors. They'll agree, Jane said confidently. They have no choice. What about the suffering? Washington asked. Can we watch innocent beings die while we negotiate? We've prepared emergency supply ships, General Brown reported. The moment they agree to our terms, we launch rescue operations. Every human with council experience is ready to return. But not before they agree, Jane emphasized. This is our chance to secure humanity's future. We won't be taken for granted again. The galaxy waited. The council debated, and the crisis deepened by the hour. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such disorder. Without functioning climate control, the air was too hot for some species and too cold for others. The smell of fear and desperation filled the massive room. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as power systems continued to fail. President Varthus called for order. His voice barely carried without proper amplification. We have received Earth's terms: full membership, equal voting rights, compensation payments, guaranteed positions in all departments. This is extortion. The Rigelian delegate shouted. They abandon us in crisis, then demand rewards. They demand recognition, Varthus corrected. Recognition we should have given 50 years ago. The Vorthan admiral stood up. His crystalline form had lost its usual shine. My military bases are failing. Ships cannot coordinate. We need humans back immediately. My colonies are starving, the Zephyrian representative added. Its tentacles drooped with exhaustion. Food production has stopped. Medical facilities cannot function. The Korvax unit displayed economic projections. Total collapse in 12 days without human intervention. Partial recovery impossible for decades. Full recovery may take centuries. The debate raged for hours. Some delegates still clung to pride. Others faced reality. The younger species, who had always respected human contributions, pushed for immediate acceptance. We called them primitive, a young Altarian observed. Yet their primitive skills kept our advanced technology working. Perhaps we need to redefine advancement. Finally, Varthus called for a vote, all in favor of accepting Earth's terms. One by one, appendages, tentacles, and energy fields signaled agreement. Even the proudest species couldn't ignore the failing life support in the chamber itself. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, Earth received the official message. In the Oval Office, President Washington read the Council's acceptance. Every term had been agreed to. Humanity would join as full members immediately. Launch the rescue operations, he ordered. Across Earth, volunteers rushed to departure points. Engineers, doctors, programmers, and thousands of other specialists boarded ships. They had been waiting for this moment, ready to help the moment the agreement was signed. Captain Amy Rodriguez received new orders. Her cargo hold full of medical supplies could finally deliver its precious cargo. New heading, Tony. Kepler 5 colony. Maximum speed. With pleasure, Captain, Tony grinned. They had all hated turning away from beings in need. The first human ships reached struggling colonies within days. The response was overwhelming. Alien populations who had once ignored humans now greeted them as saviors. On Mining Station Gamma 7, human technicians quickly restored life support. They found the handwritten notebooks, understood the shortcuts, and fixed problems in hours that had stumped alien engineers for weeks. How do you understand these modifications? the Korvax engineer asked. Easy, the human replied. Jim always used blue ink for critical systems, red for optional upgrades. His handwriting is terrible, but we all learned to read it. In medical facilities, human doctors and nurses got equipment running again. They knew which buttons to press in sequence, which settings worked for each species, how to interpret the confusing error messages. Trade resumed as human logistics experts reorganized shipping routes. They untangled the mess at trading stations, sorted mixed cargo, and restored the flow of goods between worlds. The financial markets stabilized as human accountants returned to the Galactic Reserve Bank. They understood the complex exchange rates and had backup systems the aliens never knew existed. But things were different now. Humans didn't return as quiet workers. They came back as equal partners. Every restored system included proper documentation in multiple languages. Every repair team trained alien counterparts. "We'll help," Jane Miller explained to the council. "But never again will you take us for granted. Every species must learn these skills. No single species should be irreplaceable." The council agreed. They had learned their lesson too well. New policies mandated cross-species training. Human efficiency experts redesigned systems to be truly universal. Most importantly, humans took their seats at the main council table. Their votes counted equally. Their voices were heard. The galaxy had learned that true advancement meant recognizing value wherever it existed. 6 months later, the Galactic Council chamber looked completely different. The air was clean and fresh. All systems functioned perfectly. Representatives from dozens of species worked together smoothly. But the biggest change was at the main council table, where Ambassador Jane Miller sat as Earth's full representative. The session began with reports from across the galaxy. Trade had not just recovered but improved. New human-designed systems connected species more efficiently than ever before. Medical advances saved lives on every member world. Food production exceeded pre-crisis levels. "The Efficiency Committee has a proposal," Jane announced. She stood and activated a holographic display. The Galactic Technical and Diplomatic Corps, a new organization where every species contributes members to learn essential skills. The plan was detailed and fair. Humans would teach their methods to mixed species teams. No single species would control critical systems again. Knowledge would be shared, documented in multiple languages, and constantly updated. "Earth supports this fully," Jane continued. "We'll provide our best instructors, but every species must participate equally." The vote was unanimous. Again, the council had developed a new habit of actually agreeing on things. Having translators who understood context and mediators who prevented conflicts made an enormous difference. In the engineering section of Starbase Omega, Chief Human Engineer Maria Lopes trained a mixed group. 2 Vorthans, 3 Korvax units, and a young Zephyrian learned the secrets of connecting incompatible systems. "The trick isn't the technology," Maria explained. "It's understanding how different minds approach problems. Vorthans think in spirals. Korvax process in straight lines. Humans jump around. Once you understand the thinking, you can bridge any gap." Her students took careful notes. For the first time, alien species were learning to think like humans, not because human thinking was superior, but because it was flexible. Humans had learned to adapt to everyone else. Now others learned the same skill. The economic transformation was remarkable. Human business consultants helped establish truly universal banking. Currency exchange became simple and transparent. Trade flourished as never before. Species that had barely interacted now formed profitable partnerships. President Varthus visited Earth for the first ceremonial meeting. He stood in the United Nations building, the same place where aliens had once come begging. Now he came as an equal partner and friend. "The Council owes humanity an apology," he said to the assembled Earth leaders. "We measured worth by the wrong standards. Military might and advanced technology mean nothing if the basic systems don't function." President Washington responded graciously. "We all learned valuable lessons. Earth learned to value our own contributions. The Council learned that every species has something essential to offer. The ceremony marked a new era. Young humans joined alien universities to study advanced physics and quantum mechanics. Young aliens came to Earth to learn practical engineering and cultural diplomacy. Exchange programs flourished. In space, the changes were even more dramatic. New stations were built with truly integrated systems. Instead of connecting incompatible technologies with patches, engineers from multiple species designed unified systems from the start. The first graduate class of the Galactic Technical and Diplomatic Courts received their certifications. The group photo showed humans standing alongside every other species. They wore identical uniforms, spoke multiple languages, and understood each other's cultures. "Never again," Jane said at the graduation ceremony. "Never again will we allow critical knowledge to rest with one species. Never again will we undervalue any contribution. Every being who keeps the lights on, who makes the systems work, who helps others communicate, they all matter." The applause came in dozens of different forms: clapping, clicking, humming, and flashing lights. But the message was universal. The galaxy had learned its most important lesson. A young human graduate spoke with her Korvax study partner. "My grandmother always said humans were just the janitors of space. She cleaned ships for 30 years. Was she wrong?" the Korvax asked. "No," the human smiled. "She was right. And janitors are essential." The Council finally figured that out. As the ceremony ended, beings of all species returned to their work. The galaxy functioned better than ever, and in the historical archives, scholars added a new saying: "Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might be holding your world together." The crisis was over. The lesson was learned. Humanity had found its place among the stars.